Ah yes, the Medusa Touch. I first watched this film in my teens after my parents recommended it to me. A few decades later, I couldn't remember much about it except for an intense central performance and staring. Lots of staring. I rewatched it recently and I reckon it's a forgotten gem that still deserves a watch. The Medusa Touch was released in 1978 with a runtime of 109 minutes and currently seems only available on DVD. It's a British thriller film that revolves around novelist John Morlar, played by Richard Burton, a man with a supernatural ability to cause disasters and death merely by thinking about them. Monsieur Brunel, played by Lino Ventura, is a French detective on an exchange scheme in London and is assigned to investigate the apparent murder of John Morlar. With the help of Morlar's journals and Dr. Zonfeld, played by Remick, who is a psychiatrist Morlar was consulting, Brunel reconstructs Morlar's life. Seen in flashback, it is filled with seemingly inexplicable catastrophes and the sudden deaths of people he disliked or who grievously offended him. Morlar has become convinced that consciously or unconsciously, he himself willed these disasters to happen. As Brunel delves deeper, he uncovers a series of catastrophic events linked to Morlar's psychic powers, raising questions about the nature of his abilities and whether Morlar's destructive influence will ever stop. The exact budget for the Medusa Touch is not widely documented, but it is known to be a modest budget typical of British films of the era, likely ranging between $2 to $3 million, but probably less. The box office performance of the Medusa Touch was modest. It performed reasonably well in the UK and other international markets, but did not achieve major commercial success in the United States. Its exact box office figures are not well documented, but it garnered enough attention to remain a notable entry in the thriller genre of the late 1970s. The Medusa Touch received mixed to positive reviews upon its release. Critics praised Richard Burton's intense performance and the film's eerie atmosphere. However, some reviewers felt that the plot was overly complex and the pacing uneven. Over time, the film has gained a cult following for its chilling premise and Burton's compelling portrayal of a misanthropic man with godlike, destructive powers. The film is based on the 1973 novel of the same name by Peter Van Greenaway. The wonderful Lee Remick, who plays Morlar's therapist, also played a starring role in the supernatural thriller classic The Omen. The production of the Medusa Touch began in the mid-1970s, with Jack Gold taking on the directorial role. The film was shot primarily in the United Kingdom, with notable locations including London, Herne Bay and Bristol. Richard Burton was cast as John Morlar, a role that leveraged his powerful screen presence. Despite Burton's well-known struggles with alcohol and health, his performance was intense and memorable. Filming included intricate special effects to help depict the various disasters caused by Morlar's psychic abilities. The production team faced challenges in creating believable disaster sequences without the extensive CGI available today. Instead, they relied on practical effects and miniatures, which contributed to the film's gritty realism. The scenes depicting disasters such as the airplane crash and the cathedral collapse were noted for their realism at the time. Favourite quote, I think, is by Dr. Zonfeld. When describing Morlar to Brunel, she says, "Most of my patients find the world too much for them. He was too much for the world." My thoughts. So as I mentioned, I could remember very little about this film except Richard Burton. Upon rewatching The Medusa Touch, his intense performance is indeed magnetic and unnerving throughout. The film itself is an intricate narrative mix of whodunit thriller with a collection of previous events by flashbacks and therapy sessions interspersed throughout. Lee Remick also does a terrific job playing a sympathetic yet skeptical therapist who is trying to help him but does not know how. Burton's desperation as Morlar trying to ascertain if he is truly mad or not is compelling, and there is some sympathy from the audience in his plight. But Morlar crosses the line, choosing more and more acts of destruction to prove his gift cannot be a coincidence. It reminds me a bit of Unbreakable in terms of walking the line of is he or isn't he ambiguity. I suppose my only niggle is the title. In Greek mythology, Medusa is generally described as a woman with living snakes in place of hair. Her appearance was so hideous that anyone who looked upon her was turned to stone. Morlar's gift is neither related to appearance or turning onlookers to stone, but I guess it adds a certain ominousness regarding the inevitability of death. It also evokes another mythological trope. King Midas is popularly remembered in Greek mythology for his ability to turn everything he touched into pure gold, and this came to be called the Golden Touch or the Midas Touch. So, the Medusa Touch as a title conflates these two into basically whatever Morlar touches dies, but again he doesn't really touch any of his victims, he just wills it, but that's just a minor quibble. Telekinesis is the hypothetical psychic ability allowing an individual to influence a physical system without physical interaction. Is a classic horror science fiction staple seen in other genre greats like Carrie and Scanners. The Medusa Touch easily fits alongside these two, adding a different enough angle in the material. All three films explore themes of power, control and the consequences of psychic abilities. Carrie focuses on a young girl's adolescent struggles against bullies and leans towards horror and the personal journey of its protagonist. Scanners is a visceral blend of science fiction and horror with a focus on action and the implications of psychic powers in the corporate world, with plenty of heads exploding. The Medusa Touch explores a man grappling with a lifetime of a terrifying gift to cause disasters, taking a darker and more investigative approach. Overall verdict: The Medusa Touch added to the era's fascination with telekinesis and psychological horror. I enjoyed this film in every regard: the concept, investigation, performances, direction. There is a very effective tense atmosphere throughout the film. Although not a high-grossing blockbuster, the film's intriguing plot, complex characters and strong performances have ensured its lasting legacy in the genre and is absolutely worth a watch. Thanks for watching. If you liked or learned anything in this video, please like and subscribe so I can continue growing my channel, and thanks to those who have already done so, I really appreciate it. Please comment below if you've seen the film and if there are any other forgotten gems you wished more people knew about.